Welcome back to my week 6 setup for my bullet journal in February. Today I'm going to be talking about introversion and extroversion. I feel like so all my life I would say I've definitely been an extrovert. And for those of you who don't know, because this is a very common misconception, introversion and extroversion isn't based off of like if you're a loner or if you're really social. It's more based off of like energy, and like let's say if you're tired, how you're gonna like recharge and really get more energy is either you're gonna like want to spend it alone, or you're gonna want to spend it with other people. Personally, I've basically my entire life I've always like looked to other people to like recharge, right, and like get more energy. And then other people, if you're an introvert, then you're gonna probably spend that alone. But recently, I'd say probably within the past year, I found myself often looking to be alone in order to recharge. And I find this very interesting because I'm still very much like outgoing and stuff, like when I'm with people, I'm like really outgoing. But I often find myself getting very like socially tired and wanting to, go be alone to recharge and like, really gain myself back, right? And I just find this very interesting because I also would definitely say that this change has been accelerated by quarantine. I mean, I feel like quarantine has probably made us either all a little bit more introverted or all a little bit more extroverted. I feel like quarantine has definitely just had a very social impact on everyone, It's also interesting because I'll hang out with people and I'm like, oh, I should go be alone in order to recharge. And so I go do that. And then I hate being alone. It's very fascinating. So then I'm like, oh, I guess I'll just go with other people. And then I immediately recharge. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm definitely still an extrovert. But it's very confusing. Like, what do I need and what do I want? Because I'm in a constant state of thinking that I want to be alone, when in reality, I actually need to be with other people. And it's kind of hard to convince myself that I actually do want to be with other people when I want to be alone. Yeah, definitely when I was younger, I became an extrovert. And then in 6th grade, I transferred to a new middle school. And oh my God, I became the most obnoxious, outgoing, sociable person I think to ever exist, because I really like wanted to try and prove to myself and everyone that like I'm fun, I have a personality. Like take me and then times it by like 1,000, and that was me just at all times to every single person. Literally to anyone who met me during like 6th or 7th grade, like I apologize because oh my God, thinking about myself back then like makes me want to yak, and so I became very used to being very outgoing and stuff so that I could like get to know people because I was put in a place where I didn't know anyone, right? And then during 8th grade, I found, like a good group of friends, and I really started becoming more myself. And this continued into freshman year. Like, yes, I was obviously still outgoing and like sociable, and like throughout all of this, I was always an extrovert, right? I would rarely ever spend any time alone because it was like, I want to be energetic, and how I be energetic is with other people. Sophomore year hit. Now, I know it's a pretty collective experience for sophomore year to be just absolute shit. Like, I think everyone agrees that sophomore year, or being 15, is just the worst year. And I very much had this. Sophomore year, I was just stuck in this rut, just of being like, I can't do anything. I don't want to do anything. And I became rather introverted. I don't even think I became an introvert, but like I just slowly became less and less extroverted because each time I was hanging out with people, I would just get so tired. Whenever I was like really energetic, it was always when I was alone. Like, and I not even loved being alone. It was more just like I did not have the energy to be with people. And when I was with people, it's not like I was getting any more energy. So I spent so much of sophomore year in my room alone. But the thing is that this was just so bad for me and like for my mental health, and I think that's really why I discovered that I truly am an extrovert at heart and I'll never be an introvert, because even during times where being social is extremely tiring, being alone is still worse for me. And so then go to junior year, and the same thing that happened sophomore year kind of happened junior year, but it was more a result of, not having enough time because I became overwhelmed with having so much going on. Junior year, I just became so busy that I was so exhausted and I couldn't talk to anyone. I was so exhausted that I couldn't be with anyone, especially at the beginning of 2020, funnily enough, burnout hit me. I was so burnt out, but in such a weird way. It wasn't like I was burnt out to the point where like I couldn't do anything. I was burnt out in the way that like I could only do school, and it was like the only thing that I could do. Like I became a shell of a person, And this means that I lost all social capabilities. Like, I had a habit tracker in my bullet journal at the time of like when I would hang out with people, and I went like 2 straight months without seeing like anyone outside of school, just because I was so exhausted. I couldn't hang out with anyone. And when I did, all I wanted to do was just sit on my phone, and I hated it. It was like, that was the worst like mental state I've probably been in ever. So actually quarantine kind of saved me, because it forced me to not have school and forced me to not look to school to be the only thing for me to do, right? I actually got to learn how to genuinely have fun by myself, because even though it ended up being a good like straight 5 months of me virtually being by myself and not hanging with anyone, the 3 months that were like a part of quarantine were me learning how to have fun by myself and not forcing myself to be alone. Like, I learned how to find fun in the boredom, right? Like, I found so many new hobbies and all. It was actual good things. And so I actually started becoming more introverted again, because I was learning how to energize myself by being alone, by doing all these fun things alone, right? And then I started hanging out with friends, in a very COVID safe way, seeing the same like 4 people. And once again, I learned I am just truly an extrovert. I will always re-energize by being with other people. I will never be someone who is like, oh, I'm so tired, let me be alone. Even though sometimes I think that, even though sometimes I do that, and I'm like, oh, let me try that, it'll never work out for me. I'll always be the person who needs to be with other people to energize. I'm happy that I'm an extrovert. I'd be just as happy if I was an introvert, honestly, because I do think there are some cons to being an extrovert. Like, I think generally it's hard to be an extrovert who is like socially exhausted, but you can't recharge when you're by yourself, so you just end up being exhausted and tired all the time. Because a pro of being an extrovert is that social situations are generally going to be easier. What kind of social you are, no matter if you're an extrovert or an introvert, you're loved, you're great. It's not neither is better, neither is worse. They're both great. It's all just people. Everyone's a person, And that's all for my little ramble today. I think I'm going to start calling these skids tidbits. So this is my bullet journal. This is week 6. This week is going to be kind of a normal week, I'm just going to have school and stuff. But I hope you liked it. I hope this ramble may have helped you in any way. Either discover you're an introvert, discover you're an extrovert, whatever. I don't know. If you have anything to say, leave it in the comments. Hope you liked it. Bye-bye.